What is up? Good mic work back at you with your Royal Rumble 2016 predictions and go home Raw review. Probably going to make the Raw review portion of this commentary a little bit short. Not the greatest show that we have seen, but I still wanted to come up and make some comments about it because I did enjoy the main event segment, and it did leave a few interesting things in our minds as we lead into the Royal Rumble here, and hopefully they'll be able to deliver us a good show. As always, if you like what you hear, please give that like button a click. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I also have a second channel. You can subscribe that too. I have a website, goodmicworkcommentaries.com, where you can view all of these YouTube videos and download an MP3 of this commentary straight to your device. And if you have the iTunes or Stitcher Radio app, you can find me on there as well. I want to jump right into Raw here. Of course, it was Martin Luther King Day here in the United States. This is a holiday, and WWE has always done a very tasteful piece, opening up Raw once a year when it falls on this day and paying tribute to Martin Luther King. And I think we should all take a minute to remember exactly what he meant and how significant he was and what a price he paid. I mean, this man was arrested dozens of times and ultimately murdered just so we could all live our lives as equals. And we've definitely come a long way, but we're not even close to being there yet. And the dream is still alive, and I cannot tell you how much I respect Martin Luther King and everything that he preached and everything that he talked about and his ultimate goal of what he wanted to see in society, and especially in this country. And like I said, we still have some work to do, but strides have been made, and that's at least a little bit reassuring. But long live Dr. Martin Luther King. We also have a couple of sad deaths to report. Not only did the world lose David Bowie and Lemmy, the lead singer of Motorhead, in the past couple of weeks, but another musical icon passed away today, and that was Glenn Frey. He was one of the founding members of the Eagles. I was so sad to hear about that. It's so funny how these things come in threes. That's three musicians right there in the past few weeks, not to mention Alan Rickman, great actor who also passed away a few days ago. And then in our own world of wrestling, we lost kind of a big name today. Iron Mike Sharpe has reportedly passed away a couple of days ago at his home in Canada. He apparently had been battling some illnesses. I was really sad to hear about his passing. He was one of my all-time favorites, all-time favorite jobbers anyway in the WWE. I mean, he was working as an enhancement talent for them. I mean, I can think back to him going way back in the early 80s, all the way up until the mid-90s somewhere. So Mike Sharpe was always a mainstay on WWE TV for enhancement matches, and he always wore the forearm, which apparently was loaded. There was like a brick in there or something like that. They always made it sound like it was a loaded forearm, and he would hit guys with it, very similar to Bob Orton's cast. And it seems like everyone, so many old-timers, have a funny Iron Mike Sharpe story. All of the shoot interviews I've watched and listened to over the years, I've heard people say some hilarious things about the guy. So really sad to hear of his passing. He's somebody that occupies a big chunk of my memories. I remember seeing him on TV for years when I was younger in the WWE. So condolences out to Iron Mike Sharpe's family. Rest well, brother. You are one hell of an entertaining jobber. Now let's move into Monday Night Raw. Roman Reigns opened up the show. As we know, last week as Raw went off the air, he was F5'd and beaten up by Brock Lesnar, so you kind of knew Roman was going to have something to say tonight. He came out and started cutting a promo on Brock Lesnar and saying that he is there to confront him later on tonight. Now, Brock Lesnar was advertised to be on Chris Jericho's highlight reel later on in the show. Jericho then comes out and interrupts Roman Reigns, and the two of them kind of have a friendly conversation until the League of Nations interrupts. A little bit of a lame back and forth between Jericho and Sheamus and Roman Reigns and all of them. Anyway, long story short, Jericho, how he has the power to do this, I don't know, but he decides to make the match between Rusev and Roman Reigns, and he appoints himself the special guest referee. There wasn't a whole lot to this match, but it was a match of the last two guys that were in the Royal Rumble last year. That's kind of how they built it up. And I think the most entertaining part of the whole match was Jericho going a little bit crazy at the end and even throwing a cartwheel at us, which was really hilarious. But at the end of the day, Roman Reigns, as expected, did spear and pin Rusev and got the victory. We would see Roman Reigns later on in the main event segment. In between that time, Stephanie and Triple H came out there with the big Royal Rumble lottery thing where they draw the numbers or names out or whatever. So they decided that they are going to draw a name, and whoever's name it is going to be the number one entrant in the Royal Rumble. In between that time, Stephanie and Vince McMahon come out to the stage with the big Royal Rumble lottery thing where they draw the numbers or names out or whatever. So they decided that they are going to draw a name, and whoever's name it is going to be the number one entrant in the Royal Rumble. They really dragged this out with Vince McMahon pretending he can't open a couple of the balls and then putting them back and grabbing another one. Finally, he gets one open and reveals it to be none other than, of course, Roman Reigns. But they say, hey, it's okay. I know you fans might think we're rigging this, so let's show you that this is on the up and up, and we're going to draw another name instead. So they spin the thing again. He pulls out another one and reveals it to be, of course, Roman Reigns, basically openly admitting that they are rigging the system and placing Roman Reigns as the number one entrant into the Royal Rumble. Don't know why they had to go through all of that. Stephanie or Vince could have just announced that in a promo, but they went through with the whole charade of picking the name, and Roman Reigns, I guess, will be your number one entrant in the Royal Rumble. Now, they haven't given us an exact list, so we really don't know how many surprise spots there are open, and I'm really curious as to some of the other matches on the card, like Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens, Kalisto and Del Rio. I really hope these guys are in the Royal Rumble match as well, because if they're not, I think that's a bad idea. This is for the title. Your top stars on your roster all need to be in it. So I'm hoping a lot of these guys do, in fact, pull double duty since the title is on the line. But I guess we really don't know. WWE, I don't think, wants us to know all of the competitors. That way the fans can figure out, who's coming next or, who the surprises are or whatever the fuck. So I think they're going to keep it all just a secret and let us assume that we know the guys. And hopefully we'll get one or two surprises in the Royal Rumble. I'm banking on it. And we'll talk about the Royal Rumble here in just a little bit. Fast forwarding now to the main event segment, Brock Lesnar is supposed to be the guest on the highlight reel. In the opening segment that I talked about earlier, Jericho invited Roman Reigns to confront Brock on this very segment. But the segment starts out with Chris Jericho and Paul Heyman cutting a pretty nice promo on each other and doing some talking about the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania and all that stuff. And then Jericho starts questioning Heyman, what's going to happen, Paul? What's going to happen if the last two men in the ring are Brock Lesnar and Chris Jericho? And I thought that was hilarious because I was like, Jericho, I can tell you what's going to happen. You are going to get your ass tossed over the top rope. Rather easily, I might add. As soon as Jericho says that, Brock Lesnar's music hits. He starts making his way down to the ring, and that's when Roman Reigns interrupts, doesn't even let Brock do his full entrance. Roman starts coming through the crowd to a chorus of boos and gets in the ring and basically calls Brock to get in, and as soon as Brock Lesnar steps in, he gets nailed with a spear. Reigns dropped him pretty hard. That was awesome. And then the League of Nations runs in and starts attacking Roman Reigns. Finally, Brock comes to and completely destroys the entire League of Nations. And as soon as he's done F5ing the last one, which I think was Sheamus, he gets nailed with a second spear by Roman Reigns, which I loved. As soon as that happens, the lights go out, and the Wyatt family makes an appearance. They're surrounding the ring. They take out Roman Reigns. Bray hits him with the Sister Abigail, and then instructs the Wyatt family to beat down Brock Lesnar, which they do because he's severely hurt from the two spears he got from Roman. So the Wyatts end up beating the shit out of him. They pick his lifeless body up and hold it in front of Bray Wyatt. It was great. And then Bray grabbed him and hit him with the Sister Abigail. How cool is that? We never thought we'd see Brock and Bray Wyatt interacting, and to have that happen on Monday Night Raw and closing out the show with the Wyatts standing tall over Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, that was awesome. The show itself wasn't very good, but I did enjoy the main event. My only problem with this main event segment is that I hope this could actually go somewhere with Brock and Bray Wyatt. I don't know if this would necessarily be a WrestleMania match. I'll talk about what I think might happen in WrestleMania and the Royal Rumble a little bit later, but if they wanted to set up something between Brock and Bray Wyatt, I would be completely for it. And even if they did work Mania, I'd be fine with that too. But I have a feeling that this is more about having a reason and a motivation to get the Wyatt family out of the ring. I think when Brock Lesnar gets into the Royal Rumble, he's going to dispose of most, if not all, of the Wyatt family, including Braun Strowman. I'm calling it right now. Brock will be the one to eliminate Braun Strowman. Braun's going to do some damage in there, but when he runs into Brock, he's fucked. So I have a funny feeling that any issue Brock Lesnar might have with the Wyatt family will be resolved at the Royal Rumble match itself, and it might not go any further than that. All in all, I have nothing to complain about as far as the ending of Raw. I mean, what else would you want? Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, these two big, monsters in the WWE taken out by a group, a faction, and particularly one guy, Bray Wyatt, that most of the wrestling fans, especially the smart wrestling fans, love and adore. So I don't know how in the world you could complain about Bray Wyatt beating the shit out of Reigns and Brock Lesnar. But the show overall, I will agree with anybody that says the show wasn't very good. It was not. I will get into a little bit of what else we saw just quickly here, some of the other matches. We had Brie tapping out to Natalya, not much there, thank God. That match only lasted about, a minute and a half. And, You know, you guys know my feelings on Brie mode, but every time I hear it, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It is the dumbest fucking thing. Brie, I'm begging you, girl, please, knock that shit off. It's horrible. I mean, she's essentially become a jobber. When was the last time Brie won a match without any bullshit or help or shenanigans? I mean, this girl's getting her ass handed to her pretty much in every encounter. It was nice to see Natalya tap her ass out. The Wyatt family got a victory over the Dudley Boys and Ryback. Now, Ryback I don't give a shit about, but the Dudleys continue their downward spiral. Now, I have no problem with the older veterans putting the young guys over. That's very admirable. But if the Dudleys are there and they still have a little gas in the tank, I wish they would let them or utilize them a little bit. And a few of you had messaged me about a rumor that was going around about a possible split between the Dudley Boys. Now, if they did that, I would actually be fine with it if they decided to push Bubba, because Bubba got pretty over in TNA as Bully Ray. Now, if he adopted that type of a character in the WWE, I think that can be pretty good. And the first guy it makes me think of is Kevin Owens. Think about a TNA type of Bully Ray character. Think about that character that was in TNA feuding with Kevin Owens. That would be extremely fun to watch, and the promos would be amazing. In another stupid thing that happened, the Social Outcasts, this newly formed faction that just got together, 3 weeks ago, got destroyed by one man. Now, one man, of course, was the Big Show. He comes out there, fans don't give a fuck, pretty much run to the concession stands, but he's taking on Heath Slater in a one-on-one match, knocks him out with the knockout punch in about, a minute and pins him, and then proceeds to just completely destroy the rest of the faction. So I don't know how smart that is, but what do I care? Obviously, that faction is going to be very similar to the three-man band or any other just joke of a group that they've had in the past, so they're definitely not going to take them seriously. They proved that tonight on Monday Night Raw, and I really can't see this faction lasting too long. I've mentioned before that I think Curtis Axel doesn't fit. The other three are complete goofballs. He seems a little bit more serious, or at least he wants to be serious. And even tonight on Raw, when he was cutting the promo, somebody grabbed the mic out of his hand, and he kind of looked a little bit pissed off. So I think it's only a matter of time before they end this faction that probably shouldn't have been put together to begin with. Becky Lynch also got a victory over Tamina. Now, Charlotte and Ric Flair were at ringside sitting in chairs watching the match, and Becky and Ric Flair end up cutting a promo together, and Ric, on behalf of his daughter, basically accepts Becky's challenge for a title match at the Royal Rumble after Charlotte had already kind of denied it. So Flair got his emotions got the better of him, and he agreed to a match for his daughter. You can tell there might be a little bit of dissension there. I'll get into my predictions on that match in a minute, but that does set up the Royal Rumble match between Becky and Charlotte, and we kind of had a feeling that would happen. Sheamus and Del Rio beat Kalisto and Dean Ambrose in a tag team match. Kevin Owens was on commentary for this thing, setting up his big Royal Rumble IC title match with Dean Ambrose. This is going to be a last man standing match. That should be fun. Big news coming out of this past week's TV tapings at SmackDown is that Del Rio won back the U.S. title from Kalisto. So Kalisto was a champion for 3 days, actually 1 day, because I believe it was taped on Tuesday. So Kalisto winning the U.S. title last week on Raw and exciting everybody was really all for nothing, and he ended up losing it right back to Del Rio on SmackDown. So I'm not sure what the point of putting it on him to begin with was. He is getting another shot at it, however, at the Royal Rumble. So there will be a U.S. title match there, and I will talk about my predictions in a minute, like I said, but I'm not too optimistic about him regaining the U.S. title, because if he was going to do that, why did they flop it back and forth to begin with? You know, why did he drop it back to Del Rio just to win it back at the Royal Rumble? He should have just won it on Raw and kept it, or they should have held off the title match until the Royal Rumble and he wins it there. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Sheamus and Del Rio, like I said, did get the victory. Dean Ambrose got a little bit distracted outside the ring with Kevin Owens, allowing Del Rio to nail him with a pretty funny-ass kick right to the face. And he jumped off the announce table and did it or something pretty cool. And Kevin Owens just kind of stood over Ambrose's lifeless body and walked away. Probably the most entertaining thing that happened on Raw tonight was the funeral for Xavier Woods' trombone, who was brutally murdered last week by Chris Jericho. I don't think I'll ever forgive Chris Jericho for doing that. I definitely got teary-eyed seeing him and Big E and Kofi back there paying their respects and holding a little ceremony for the trombone. I swear it was sadder than when Damien died. But hopefully Xavier Woods can pick up the pieces of his shattered life and find a new instrument to play, or maybe the trombone has a baby brother that he can bring out and start playing instead. Hopefully we will have not heard the last of New Day's musical ability. And I think the only other match we had on Raw was a bizarre 8-man tag with Mark Henry, R-Truth, and Titus O'Neil, and Neville, of all people, on one side, taking on Stardust, The Ascension, and Tyler Breeze. Now, to me, Tyler Breeze and Neville were completely out of place. R-Truth and Titus O'Neil, Mark Henry, and Neville did get the victory, and Neville hit his sweet-ass finisher, the Red Arrow. I mean, has this guy ever botched that thing? I swear, it's picture perfect every time. Now, I did hear the rumors about Tyler Breeze being de-pushed. A lot of you guys wanted my opinions on that. Yeah, now you know I'm not a huge fan of the Tyler Breeze character, so if the rumors are true, and what I've heard is that Vince McMahon has just decided to put the brakes to any Tyler Breeze push that was going on. Now, the unbiased wrestling fan in me will agree with everyone that that's horseshit, and it's one of the things that pisses me off the most about Vince McMahon is that he will just up and decide something just because he personally doesn't like it. And a few of you were telling me that the story was that Triple H even went to bat for Tyler Breeze. Who knows if any of this shit is true? But if it is, and Triple H really wants to push him and Vince McMahon does not, and Vince just refuses, no, we're not pushing this kid, that is infuriating, and that's incredibly fucked up, and it's one of the biggest problems in the WWE is you can work so hard, you can be so good in the ring, and be more than capable of working at a high level in the WWE, but Vince just doesn't like your face or something, and then he just de-pushes you. So that is a very, very nasty part of this business and something that's always pissed me off about it. So anybody that says it's horseshit that the WWE has decided to de-push a guy that's great in the ring for no apparent reason whatsoever, you're 100% right. That is fucked up. Now, the biased fan in me, the one that does not like this Tyler Breeze character, is not going to be losing any sleep over this. This guy is just way too over the top for me. I mean, what is going on here? Is he a woman or something? Like, what the fuck? I've never had a problem with the narcissistic, full-of-yourself characters, but Jesus, this is just a little bit too super ridiculous for me. I mean, Shawn Michaels was hard enough to stomach as it was back in the 90s, but he was so incredibly good and charismatic and awesome. You know, I could let all that shit go, but this guy, it's just too much. The furry boots and the selfie stick, I don't know. It doesn't make me mad. It just makes me laugh that I hate the character so much. So the fact that they're not pushing this guy and he's not going to be winning any title belts is not upsetting me. If they just want to bring him back as a normal fucking wrestler, you can still put a gimmick on him. I don't care. But you can't tell the difference between Tyler Breeze and a WWE diva. They're essentially the same thing. So if you can just tone it down a little bit, just too sparkly, it's too flamboyant, it's just too something for me. I just don't like it, never have. And if they're de-pushing him, I really don't care. Moving on now to the Royal Rumble, I'm going to do my best to predict this because I don't know. I only have 4 matches right now written down. I don't know. I'm sure they're going to announce something else on SmackDown and we'll probably get a pre-show match. So these are not going to be full-on predictions. All I have is the 4 big title matches. Or I'm sorry, actually 5 if you count the Royal Rumble match itself. So it's not yet listed on WWE.com under the Royal Rumble section, but I swear I heard them on Raw tonight say that the New Day will be defending the tag team titles against the Usos at the Royal Rumble. So I'm predicting the New Day to retain the titles in that match, and hopefully they will debut, or there might be a run-in by a new instrument. How funny would that be? The Divas title, like I mentioned earlier, is going to be on the line. Champion Charlotte taking on Becky Lynch. This is one match where I think we're going to get a title change. I think Becky's going to beat her here. Charlotte won that belt at, Night of Champions? She's held it for a while now. She's feuding with Becky at this point. If Becky doesn't come through and win that title, where does it leave her? Where does she go from here? At least if she wins the belt now, she can feud with Charlotte and they can maybe trade the belt back with each other once or twice. I think she is going to beat Charlotte and become the new Divas champion, and I actually think Charlotte will win it back probably relatively quickly after that, maybe WrestleMania or something like that. U.S. title, of course, is on the line as well. Rubber match between Del Rio and Kalisto. Now, Kalisto's been very impressive. I was really happy last week that he won the U.S. title. A little bit disappointed that he lost it right back to Del Rio on SmackDown. Now they're having another match at the Royal Rumble. And as much as I hate to say it, I'm predicting Del Rio. I don't think Kalisto is going to win the U.S. title. I would love him to, don't get me wrong. If he won, I would be completely happy with it, fine with it, wouldn't be pissed at all, and I hope that he does. I am predicting him, however, to lose. Del Rio will retain the U.S. title. The reason I'm predicting Del Rio to retain is because I think the Intercontinental title is going to change hands. I think Kevin Owens is going to beat Dean Ambrose in that last man standing match. It seems like the type of match that Owens has to win It's going to be close, and it's going to come down to the end, and I have a feeling it's going to be one of those situations where, you know, both guys are down and being counted out, but Owens gets up at the very, very last minute, and Dean is counted down. So it's going to be some sort of a finish like that, but at the end of the day, I think Kevin Owens will win back the Intercontinental title. And as far as the Royal Rumble goes, man, we have all sorts of possible scenarios here. It's going to be really tough to predict a flat-out winner, so I'm probably not the only one that's going to predict this, but given what we saw on Monday Night Raw with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns, I'm predicting Triple H to walk out of the Royal Rumble as the WWE Champion. I just have this feeling with Roman Reigns being number one, and Brock Lesnar also being in this thing, something is going to happen. Roman, obviously, is going to make it to the end. I expect Brock Lesnar will draw a much later number. He will come in there and clean house, probably eliminating the Wyatt family and fucking their day up something good. And I think he will somehow find himself in there with Roman Reigns at the end, but Roman Reigns is probably going to be ripe for the picking because he's going to have lasted the entire Royal Rumble. He's going to be physically spent. Brock is going to be much fresher, and it would really just be a matter of Brock picking him up and tossing him out. So I don't know how they're going to do this. Part of me envisioned maybe Roman Reigns eliminating everybody and his music playing, and he thinks he won, and then Triple H kind of hits the ring at the very end and tosses him out. I mean, if the McMahons have the power to just make Roman Reigns the number one entrant, you would think they also have the power just to insert somebody else if they want to. So I think Triple H almost might be like Stephanie and Vince's insurance policy. If they don't get the result that they want, they're going to send out Hunter to dispose of Roman Reigns and win the title, and then he can go on to put Roman Reigns over at WrestleMania. I don't think if that's going to be the best thing for the fans. I don't know if that's going to be the main event the WWE wants. So if they do, in fact, go with Triple H winning the title at the Royal Rumble, which seems likely because he's been left off TV all this time since Roman Reigns beat the shit out of him. They've hardly mentioned his name at all. So for him to surprise us in the Royal Rumble and eliminate Roman Reigns and possibly even win the WWE title, I think is extremely likely, and I'm actually predicting it to happen. You still got to figure out a way to get Brock out of there. Maybe after Brock eliminates the Wyatt family, maybe he's in there with Roman Reigns at the end, and maybe the Wyatt family comes back out to the ring and eliminates Brock Lesnar or helps get him out of the ring, and Triple H, I don't know, maybe Triple H dumps Roman and Brock both over the top rope as the Wyatt family is pulling both men down, and Triple H is in there as the WWE Champion, and then you set up a triple threat match at WrestleMania between Brock, Triple H, and Roman Reigns. I don't know if that's the best main event either. Keep in mind, what I'm predicting is just what I'm thinking the WWE might do, not necessarily what I want to see happen. So a triple threat match between Brock, Roman, and Triple H, or a one-on-one match between Triple H and Roman Reigns, I personally don't think is the best idea for WrestleMania, but I can still see both scenarios happening. You know a match between Triple H and Roman Reigns has to happen, given what we saw after TLC, after Roman Reigns damn near killed him, and after Triple H will most likely make some sort of an appearance in the Royal Rumble, possibly screwing over Roman Reigns, or actually even winning the WWE title himself, one way or the other. That has to lead to a match between the two, either at Fastlane or at WrestleMania. If it turns out to be Fastlane, maybe Brock Lesnar can face the winner at WrestleMania. If it turns out to be WrestleMania, maybe Brock Lesnar works with someone else. Considering all the injuries to the WWE roster right now and all the big names they have on the shelf, I don't see any other way you can do it other than having Brock involved in the title picture at WrestleMania 32. I would love to see him work with Bray Wyatt. I would love to see him work with Kevin Owens, but right now he's got to be in the world title situation, and that's where I hope he stays. So a lot of questions have to be answered. I think it would be a little bit too predictable if you had the situation where Roman Reigns lasts the entire Royal Rumble and then gets dumped out by Brock at the end. I think it would also be predictable if Roman Reigns actually successfully defended his title in the Royal Rumble. And with the Triple H wild card, you got to think the WWE knows that they're in dire straits right now with all the injuries. They have to do their best to please the fans. To go in the predictable route and do what they did last year, or what they did with Batista, they have to realize that would be a huge mistake. So I expect them, just given their track record of the past couple of WrestleManias and them giving us some really good main events and some exciting situations, I'm going to think that they will do the right thing here, and whatever they do will be entertaining. Now, Triple H winning the Royal Rumble and surprising everybody and becoming the WWE Champion, I wouldn't be completely opposed to that. You know that before Triple H finally hangs up his boots for good and finally retires into the WWE front office and becomes the new Vince McMahon, he's going to have some sort of a run on top once again, even if it's short. I would be fine if I'm wrong. Roman winning, Brock winning, I honestly don't care as long as we have an exciting WrestleMania season and an exciting WrestleMania. And they stop fucking disappointing us in the Royal Rumble. They got to give us something this year, you know? What have we had the last 3 years? We had Roman Reigns winning last year, of course. That was awful. Batista the year before, I dare say, was worse than that. And then I'm pretty sure Cena won before that. So it hasn't been a very pleasant last few Royal Rumbles. So hopefully this coming Sunday they will give us something to actually talk about and mark out about. And I want to come up here and do my Royal Rumble reaction video giddy as a schoolgirl. So I'm hoping that they give us something good this coming Sunday. We should also talk about some of the possible surprises in the Royal Rumble match itself. I definitely want to see some NXT guys. I think Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, Samoa Joe. Now, Zayn, I'm thinking is healthy now, right? Am I wrong about that? What's his status? He, I think, is back or is coming back. And between those three guys, Balor, Zayn, and Joe, I think one, if not all of them, need to make appearances in this Royal Rumble. Of course, there's the speculation about all the Japan Bullet Club guys that WWE has signed. A lot of people aren't expecting AJ Styles to be in the Royal Rumble, so I guess we'll just see him when we see him. I'm not going to talk too much about AJ until he finally debuts, and I'm really curious as to how WWE promotes him and pushes him if they acknowledge his success elsewhere in the world, just like they have some other guys like Samoa Joe and Finn Balor. So if the WWE's pushing of Joe and Balor were any indication, AJ Styles should be just fine. But at the same time, he is going to be in a completely different animal than what he is used to. The WWE is probably a polar opposite of where he's used to working. So I'm hoping that his career does not fail and it flourishes in the WWE, because he's mid to late 30s now. He doesn't have too many years left in him. And for him to have a good solid run in the WWE as another feather in his cap and something else on his resume, I'm really hoping works out for him. So I'm excited to see whenever AJ comes in, but apparently he will not be at the Royal Rumble. But he could. Who knows? You never know. He could definitely make an appearance, and I definitely think the fans would lose their shit if he did. Another guy that I mentioned before was Daniel Bryan. Still don't know the status of him. I think the Royal Rumble would be a fun place to bring him back as a surprise, because you need to have some excitement. You need the crowd to pop a couple of times in this thing, and for Bryan to return, you know the roof would blow off. But it's one of those things where it could backfire. They could bring Daniel Bryan out just to bring him back and say, okay, fans, look, he's back. We're bringing him back in the Royal Rumble. But then if he gets eliminated, the fans might lose their shit. He's not going to come back into the Royal Rumble to win it. I really don't think Daniel Bryan would be given the WWE title on his first night back after being off for so many months. WWE doesn't even know if his body is going to hold up. So world title is completely out of the question for Daniel Bryan right now. But bringing him back, I think, would be a lot of fun. And then if he was back on the roster, and then he could do some other things in the semi-main event or mid-card, U.S. title, Intercontinental title, shit like that. Maybe he could come back in the Royal Rumble, get eliminated, and then wind up feuding with Del Rio or something and winning the U.S. belt. Who knows? But I'm really hoping Daniel Bryan comes back sooner rather than later. And I'm going to throw one more crazy fucking surprise entrant at you, just for shits and gigs, because there was an internet story the other day that I read about the WWE possibly, just possibly, thinking about bringing back Hulk Hogan into the company in time for WrestleMania 32, because a lot of the stuff that Hogan did, you know, when he got fired last year is blown over a little bit, and if they brought him back for an appearance at an event that he helped build, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. And we all know Hogan wants to get back in the ring, but he's never going to be able to work a match, and definitely not a WrestleMania match. So what if, just what if, you know, halfway through the Royal Rumble, the real American music hits and Hulk Hogan comes out there? He gets in the ring, he punches and big boots a couple of guys, maybe throws a leg drop or something like that, and then eventually gets carefully eliminated by a handful of wrestlers, maybe the Wyatt family or something like that, maybe Brock, who knows. But just to have Hulk Hogan come in and last, I don't know, a minute and a half, fucking less time than it would take for the next entrant to come out. But just to make that appearance, to shock the fans, to give Hulk Hogan, you know, a moment in front of everybody to be in the Royal Rumble, I think would be fun. And that's what it's always boils down to me, is what's fun. I do not condone or excuse any of Hulk Hogan's past behavior. I think the guy has made a complete ass of himself in his later years, and he's pissed me off a whole bunch of times. And I think what he said and the racist comments that he made in that sex tape were horrifyingly bad and insensitive and flat out ignorant, and I think he definitely should pay the price for that, and he has. But as we see with so many things in the media and mainstream and pop culture, a story is really hot for a while and then it cools off and people forget about it. So maybe, just maybe, enough time has passed to where if they brought Hulk Hogan in for a quick appearance or something like that here or there, they wouldn't be scrutinized for it, because the whole reason they let Hulk Hogan go to begin with is because they didn't want any negative publicity on their company. So if they kept his role limited and brought him in just for a little surprise, for nostalgia purposes in the Royal Rumble, I hardly think that would be the worst thing in the world. And same goes for WrestleMania. I mean, Hulk Hogan, he made WrestleMania. He helped put that whole entire pay-per-view on the map, and you got to think that he has to be involved in these things somehow, at least make an appearance, do an interview, something. Hulk Hogan definitely, I think, needs to be at WrestleMania. If they do bring him back in for something, I'd be fine with it, and if he did show up in the Royal Rumble, I think that would be a lot of fun. So Hogan, you're definitely not my favorite person in the world, but I do have to admit that I would mark the fuck out if you showed up in the Royal Rumble and beat up a bunch of wrestlers, brother. So that is it for me for tonight. I'm out of here. I will be home this Sunday to watch the Royal Rumble. I will be live tweeting, so feel free to join me. And about 3 or 4 hours after the pay-per-view, I will be up here with a Royal Rumble reaction. So you guys have a great week. Enjoy the Royal Rumble, and I will talk to you soon. Until next time, peace.